On this episode of Lineage, the travelling researchers are on the road once again, this time to Blackpool, where there is a fresh new case to solve. We speak to the sole heir to an estate that is hoping the team at Fraser and Fraser will be able to help him move on from his past.
Thinking about the house has been incredibly stressful.
And we find out what happens when a house is left unoccupied for a long time. So the house, in fact, has got 15 or more feral cats living there. Plus, we need your help. We have the details of an estate worth £250,000, currently without an heir. Help us crack the case.
So we received a very interesting case that originates in Blackpool of a property that's remained empty for a long time now. The local authority themselves are trying to work out who is the rightful owner to that property, and we're hoping to assist them. I'm Gareth Langford. I'm a case manager at Fraser and Fraser. That involves basically the day-to-day running of estates and any other matters that come across the desk. So there's a lot of work and it's really interesting. I think what's unusual about this particular case is the local authority do have quite a lot of information, but what they don't know is what is real and what is not. So there's a lot of speculation. The property itself is not registered with the land registry. There's no deeds that can be located at this time. But I think once we start looking into it, we should be able to work out where the property originated from, who owned it originally, and then work out the path to get it back into good use. The information that the local authority provided was a series of names that they believe may be connected with the property. That's Christine Varley and her mother Marion. We know from the research that we've undertaken that Marion was married to a Mr. Rabicki, and that seems to be the connection to the property. So we've been focusing on Christine Varley. We know she was before she married a Rabicki. So what we've done is look at her parents and her grandparents, trying to get a connection to the property. And we think we found a connection. They were certainly living there for a long, long time. So that implies that they were almost certainly the owners of the property. We can speculate and we can sort of take an educated guess, but what we really need to do is get some documentation that will help us with that. The next step in the case is to get some feet on the ground. I'm going to ask Joe, our travelling researcher, to attend the property and conduct a more thorough search. Hopefully, when we undertake the search, we're going to find some paperwork that connects the family that we think owned the property to the property. In an ideal world, we'll find the deeds. I think that's unlikely, but you can always hope. And if not, then we really need to try and work out that connection and confirm it.
Oh, it's Gareth. Hi, Gareth.
Hi, Joe. I've got a property in Blackpool. Be really grateful if you could attend and make some inquiries.
Yeah, just send the details over in an email and I'll just get straight onto it. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye. So the role of a travelling researcher involves so much. Travelling for one. My name is Joe Dandy. I'm a senior travelling researcher for Fraser and Fraser. We're in Blackpool today. We're looking into a case of an empty home. This home behind me here has been empty since the year 2013, so it's 12 years. So the main reason that we're at the house today is to really look for clues and to look for signs to who actually owns the house. So we're going to go in there, I'm going to look for paperwork, I'm going to sift through, maybe there's a will in the house, I really don't know. Bank statements will give us clues to who owns the house. Or I've just bumped into Ollie and Madison here who live next door to the house, and just going to ask you a couple of questions. Do you know the people who lived here?
So we moved in October 23. Right. So at that time no one was actually in the house, and then we've had a few issues of people going in, making it their own.
So they were squatters then?
They were squatters.
Was there 3 people squatting there?
There was 2 arrested and they thought 1 ran. but they don't know for definite how many were actually in there. But
Right. So you'll be happy to see the house get back to its...
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
We
yeah.
are beyond excited for that house to get sorted.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that's good
Yeah.
news.
yeah, absolutely.
So as you can see, we've just got to the property, and it is in a little bit, well, an awful lot of disrepair. So I'm going to need to get a protective suit on, some gloves on, and see what I can find. So often in this line of work, we do come across houses like this. In fact, this here, we can't see the floor, but in some houses, it's literally this high in stuff. So I've been here now for more than an hour and unfortunately can't find any documents whatsoever. But the clearance people will come here and they will, as they remove everything, know they have the job of also looking for documents. So we're hopeful that they will be able to find something.
Christine died in 2013 and her estates remained unadministered. We're finding this more and more, and it can be for several reasons. The first, most likely reason is that the next of kin don't know the process and don't know how to start beginning to deal with the administration. The second can often be financial. They don't have the financial resources to deal with the estate itself. Yeah, it's becoming quite a common problem. Working out Christine's next of kin actually was relatively straightforward. Christine was married when she died, so we needed to get in contact with her husband.
It's a bit disappointing. Obviously we've got some photographs and things and bits and pieces, but nothing of anything which is substantial. So I've had an email since I've been in the home from the case manager, Gareth Langford, who is suggesting now that the people who owned this house, they had a daughter, Christine, and she passed away in 2013, but she was married to a Clive Varley. We believe now that Clive Varley, who lives now in Preston, is more than likely to be the sole heir to this estate. Well, it's over to Preston now and to see Clive. Thankfully, I've got a fresh tank of petrol. So signing up a sole heir is not a rarity, and they do rely so much on a company like ours because the process can be daunting. So we've now arrived in Preston. I don't know much about Preston, so hopefully Clive will be able to give me some details about the place. So let's just hope we can meet this gentleman, Mr. Varley, and explain the situation to him.
Hello.
Hello, Clive Varley.
That's right.
Yeah, my name's Joe Dandy, work for Fraser and Fraser. We're genealogists in London.
Right.
The reason I've called round today
Yeah.
is about a property,
The one in Blackpool.
the one in Blackpool. That's exactly right.
Right.
Is it okay if I would come in and
It
explain?
most certainly is.
Thank you very much.
Please come in.
Please, thank you.
Please come in.
We were approached by the council,
Yes.
who'd tried to employ somebody else who contacted you, but they'd just written a letter. And I think letters can sometimes be confusing in themselves.
Yes.
And eventually the council came to Fraser and Fraser and
Yes.
said, could you help?
I
And
wanted a solution.
the case manager called me up, because I live in the north, as you know, I live
Yes,
very
I know.
locally. He explained the situation to us and said, could you go and visit Clive Varley? Obviously there was a slight confusion to who actually owned the property. You know, was it Christine? Was it Christine's mum? Was it still maybe Zygmunt's property?
I had absolutely no idea whatsoever, but I think they moved into there in the late 1940s. I think that's
Right.
when.
So you were unaware who the actual owner of the property
Yes,
was?
I
You didn't know
was.
whether it was Zygmunt on his own, or Zygmunt and Marion together,
Yes, I've
or whether
no idea.
indeed had it moved to Christine. You didn't know.
And Christine had never said a word.
She'd not administered the estate.
No.
No. Then, as you right know now, that you are in fact the sole heir to that
Yes.
property, so
Yes.
you have got an inheritance.
And I was totally under the impression that I would get nothing.
Yeah, quite.
I was scared to death that, well, they'd just come for me for liability, and that sort of British Gas, I've not been able to get it access to property for years now. Yeah. And they still keep saying, can we come and read your meter or something?
This must have been a really stressful time for the family, and I'm really pleased that we're involved and that we can get, hopefully, some money in their pockets. I wouldn't say we've got a firm idea of the value of the estate, but the property itself is probably got a value in the region of £60,000 or £65,000. We will obviously need to get a formal valuation of it done at a later stage.
Thinking about the house has been incredibly stressful, and having someone deal with this professionally is an enormous relief and a great feeling of happiness. I had no idea whatsoever that I was technically the owner of the house. Not a single clue.
So working on this case was really satisfying because at first we didn't know who owned the property, and eventually by our research and by our probing we eventually cracked the case. So having spoken to Clive and having seen the property, I can see that by selling the property is going to be a great relief to Clive, and hopefully he'll be able to move on.
So the next stage for this particular case is really confirming ownership of that property. Joe didn't really find anything that was useful, so we need to go back to square one. So that's really looking at when the family lived there and demonstrating that they are the entitled owners. Essentially what we need to do is get what's called first title. First title is through the land registry. So we need to put forward a case that the family are the owners of the property. At the same time, we'll also make inquiries with anybody that we can to see if there's any deeds out there. There could be deeds with a bank, for instance. There could be deeds with a firm of solicitors. So we will contact as many people in the area as we can.
I was just trying to think how this case is compared to other cases that I've worked on. And of course, all cases are different, but they're also quite typical. A property's left. Nobody seems to be doing anything about it, mainly because nobody seems to know what to do about it. And of course, that is our strength. That's who Fraser and Fraser are. We've been doing this for more than 50 years, and we're quite good at it. Talking with people like Clive is a real reminder of why we do this job. Our work will make a palpable difference in his life, and I'm glad to be a small part of this. This work is so important because death and grief is such a difficult time for families, and things can become very confusing with people not knowing where to go for guidance. It is great to be able to help families through these difficult times.
Now stay with us as we give you the details on how someone could be entitled to £250,000.
£250,000 is a life-changing amount of money, and it could belong to you. I'm Neil Fraser, partner here at Fraser and Fraser, and we're searching for the relatives of Robert Adair Holdridge, born in Driffield in 1954. His mother was Molly Holdridge, and his grandmother was Agnes Towles. Robert passed away in 2012. He left a substantial estate worth almost £250,000. Could you or your family be part of it? Every clue matters. If you have any information, please contact us on 020 7832 1400 or visit the webpage fraserandfraser.co.uk. Call us, email us, contact us through the website. This is real, and this is a life-changing amount of money.